everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I'm just gonna warn you now. I'm feeling a little bit chaotic today. I'm also feeling all of the cozy vibes. It's been a while since I've just sat cross-legged on this little couch with my squish. I think this is a different one from the video. I've had this for a long time, but look at how cute it's rainbow tummy. I promise we're gonna get to the point of the video, which is 2023 anticipated releases. But first, for my alien romance girlies, my Ice Planet Barbarian girlies, I have an Ice Planet Barbarian candle, which just makes me happy. But anyway, I am doing a 2023 anticipated releases video. Now, I did a video at the end of last year telling you about the books that I anticipated in 2022 and seeing whether or not I read them. Spoiler alert, I did not read most of them. I'm doing the same thing this year, but this time these are more books that I have on my radar. I'm aware they're coming out. I'm hoping that you can get some recommendations for books to keep your eye. Why am I struggling with that? To keep your eye out for. That was hard. Just so you can get a sense of what I'm reading, what I'm excited about, things that are on my radar, but maybe I'll wait to see the reviews. Just in general, let's take this as some potential recommendations. I'm going to go in order of publication year, and we're going to start with the book that I'm not sure will be published in 2023, and that is Pining by Maisie Eddings. The reason why this is on my anticipated list is because it is a queer romance. So this is a queer holiday rom-com about this woman who buys a Christmas tree farm to get away from her ex, and another woman comes to the farm and says, actually, I inherited this property. And it is about the tension between the two of them and them trying to sort out that chaotic mess. You can see this book does not have a cover yet, nor does it have a publication date. I don't even know how I came to realize this book was going to be published, but I did. We'll see if it is, but when it is, it's something I want to pick up because I definitely really love a queer story and a queer rom-com. Let's go in order now. On January 3rd, Rachel Hawkins is publishing The Villa. Now, The Villa is something that I have a general interest in. This is on my list because I really enjoyed Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. So I just have it on my radar because I really enjoyed that previous book and I really enjoyed Rachel Hawkins' writings. So I'm excited to see what she does with it. But I will tell you, the summary is a little confusing. This is a story about Emily and Chess. They were friends, something happens, they're in their 20s now, they're coming back together and they're renting this villa in Italy that used to be owned by a notorious rock star in the 70s. Some weird shit went down in the 70s in that house, and long story short, Emily kind of gets obsessed with that history, and as she learns more, she actually finds that the tension between her and her best friend is getting higher. I don't know what shit is happening, but I trust that it's going to come together in a very messy and fun way. It's going to be a fast read. I won't pick it up right away, but it's something that I am excited about and should come out actually as you are watching this video. Also on January 3rd is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. Now, I loved the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. I have a couple of her backlist books on my TBR. I am moving away from YA, which is not to say anything about you if you're an adult who does read YA. For me, it's just something that I find that I don't connect to, and that's fine. I'm not the intended audience for that age category. There are definitely some YA books that I love, but for the most part, I'm gently moving away from that category. But Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute can get an exception, and it only got an exception today. And that is because we are following a main character who is a social media influencer, but she does conspiracy theories. She has a large social media presence because of conspiracy theories, which is why I think it's going to be fun. So we have our conspiracy theory girly, Celine, and we have Bradley. Bradley is a main character who's struggling with OCD, which I think I will appreciate seeing just for my own personal reasons. But Bradley is a football star. He's super popular. He comes out the top of his class, and he used to be friends with Celine. Celine thinks that they stopped being friends because Brad got too cool for her and left her behind, but she signs up for this survival class in the woods. They're academic rivals. They have this old friendship. There's a lot of tension between the two of them. She's surprised to find that he has also signed up for this course, and they're forced to work together. I I think it is a romantic comedy, even though I am somewhat hesitant because it is YA. I trust Talia Hibbert. I know that she writes really well, so I am excited to read this when I do get my hands on it. On January 17th, we have Mysteries of Thorn Manor, which is a novella. This one is a little bit more niche. It's for people who read A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson and really loved it. I really loved it, and I'm gonna tell you my theory about it. I think that the three main characters, we have our female main character, we have like a magician, like wizard person, a witch. She's like, magic is evil, and he's like, fuck you, and they have to save the world. That is the worst summary I've ever given you, but he has a demon that he has bound through his magic, and I high-key think that all three of them are in a relationship. I don't think that's ever gonna be canon, but just know. That's what I think. So Mysteries of Thorn Manor picks up right as the story ends. It's the sequel novella where Elizabeth is settling in her life and her relationship with Nathaniel, our magical character guy. Something has gone on with the war, so they're like trapped in the house and they're trying to figure out what happens. To be honest with you, I could give two fucks what actually happens in the story. I'm here for the characters and I'm here to see them. But I do like the whole idea of like an isolated forced proximity novella. So that is coming out on January 17th. You bet your ass I will be reading it. I might wait until I can get my hands on this either on sale or from a library. This book I have been waiting for since last year because its initial publication was January or June or something of 2022. It got pushed back to January of this year, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Mr. Grady Hendrix. Coming out on January 17th of this year. So if you're new to Grady Hendrix, he does comedic horror. It's very intense horror. It's graphic, it's gory. Sometimes he does body horror or things with insects, but at its core, it's also like funny and humorous. So How to Sell a Haunted House follows these people, Louise and Mark, and their parents died in the COVID pandemic and they have inherited the house, but the house is haunted. Both Louise and Mark are struggling financially. The pandemic really affected their bank accounts. They're wiped. The only asset they have is their childhood home, which they've now inherited after their parents have passed. So they move into the house getting ready to sell it, but they find that their parents have actually covered all of the mirrors with newspaper and nailed the attic door shut. And as time passes, they find that weirder and weirder things happen. The book says every childhood home is haunted and each of us are possessed by our parents. I think it's gonna be a lot about grief and family dynamics, but again, comedic horror, so I'm just gonna get very dark, and I'm just very excited to read it. I'm gonna say I am super excited to read this. I could probably care less what the ratings end up being because I just want to read this and get my hands on it. On the 19th, CJ Tudor is publishing The Drift. CJ Tudor is another favorite author for me. I read her book, The Burning Girls, last year, 2022. I loved it so much. I enjoy the slower pace of writing. To me, Red Gothic. I also have The Chalk Man up there on my bookshelf, which I plan to read. But The Drift is something that I'm also excited about. I believe it's an isolated thriller murder mystery situation. So we have three characters. We have Hannah, who has just woken up to a complete wreck. It's mangled metal and shattered glass, and the last thing she remembers is that she was on a bus away from her boarding school, and this is what she wakes up to during a snowstorm. Then we have Meg, who wakes up to a gentle rocking. She finds that she is in a cable car on a snowy mountain with 5 strangers who have no memory whatsoever of how the hell they ended up in that cable car. And finally, we have Carter. And Carter is stuck in an isolated ski chalet. It is a winter storm, a snowy setting, which I love. We have the thriller aspects, and with each group for these characters, there is a killer amongst them. I don't know how CJ Tudor is gonna bring this together, but that premise sounds absolutely fascinating. So I'm so excited for when this book releases on the 19th. On February 7th, Miss Tessa Bailey is releasing a new book. I actually believe she has multiple releases coming this year. I haven't read a Tessa Bailey before, but I do have some of her books on the TBR. This is the first book in a Vine mess. I think that I'm going to love it. We have Secretly Yours. Secretly Yours is, I believe, a grumpy sunshine romance following a professor and a gardener. Haley is a gardener, Julian is a professor. And Haley and Julian grew up together. Haley used to have such a huge crush on him. She's been hired to garden, whatever that is that she's doing in his garden. And she remembers that she had a crush on him, but they clash almost immediately, like their personalities clash, until one night she goes to a girls' night, she gets very, very, very drunk and writes a secret admirer letter to Julian, and he reads it, but of course has no idea who's it from. From Julian's perspective, he's like, Haley is eccentric and chronically late, but also so fucking beautiful. We just love that. Okay, he's just like pining away for her. That's all I know. That's all I need to know. It's a rom-com between the two of them. It sounds super cute, and I think Haley may be a mid-size or plus-size character. People say Tessa writes smut really well, so we can have a steamy good time with this in February. Publishing on February 14th. Vashani Chakshi is releasing her adult debut novel. This is the last tale of the Flower Bride. All I know about this book is that it is a marriage between these two people. There's some dark shit going on. The wife is like, listen, I'm gonna love you, but never, ever, ever look into my past. But our bride, Indigo, finds out that her aunt is dying and she is forced to return her childhood home. I know that secrets come out, everything kind of unravels, and there's something about a friendship doomed to tragedy. That is like the worst summary I can give you, but this cover is beautiful. It's said to be a gothic fantasy novel and darkly romantic. And if you're new, I love gothic horror, so I'm super excited to read this, and just this cover is so fucking pretty. On February 8th, She Is a Haunting is released. I think this might be YA, but it just sounds amazing. In this novel, we're following Jade Nguyen, who has just come to Vietnam to stay with her estranged father, and she only has one goal: be straight enough, be American enough, be Vietnamese enough so that she can get the money her pa has promised her so she can go to college. But as she is in the home, strange things are happening. She is waking up in the middle of the night paralyzed. There are bugs and thrumming in the wall, but neither her sister nor her father believe that anything is happening in the home. But with the help of a girl she meets, they set out to prove that there is some weird shit going on. It's an LGBT horror. It is young adult, but it sounds absolutely fucking amazing, and I will probably get my hands on this right away. We have another horror novel. So this is The Haunting of Alejandra, which is being released on April 18th. The Haunting of Alejandra is a story about La Llorona, which you don't know is a Mexican folk demon. La Llorona, essentially, if I'm getting this right, I believe drowned her children in the river and like is doomed to haunt people. So in this, we're following Alejandra. And Alejandra is a mother. She is a daughter to her adopted mother, and she is struggling with a darkness that threatens to consume her. She is seeing La Llorona, and when she is in despair, she is constantly seeing this ghostly vision. While she is in therapy, she is also working to uncover the past and history of her biological mother and what has happened before them. As it turns out, La Llorona has been following each one of the women in this family for a very long time, and we are following this story of what happens. Let me just read you this paragraph because it's amazing. She is La Llorona, the vengeful and murderous mother of Mexican legend. She will not leave until Alejandra follows her mother, her grandmother, and all the women who came before her into the darkness. That sounds so fucking good. I'm literally so excited for this. Like, I can't wait to read this. Y'all, you're not even ready for this. Alexandria Bellefleur is coming out with a new book called The Fiancee Farce. So in this book, we are following a bookstore owner and a model who models for romance book covers. So Tansy Adams is running her family's bookstore, but they kind of won't leave her alone. But the fact that she's single, she is very much inspired by Gemma, the model on the cover of Romance Book. So she's like, we're never gonna meet. I'm just gonna fib a little and say that we are dating. This is my girlfriend. Gemma is the wild child of her very wealthy family. family. She's now the heir to Van Dellen Publishing. And in order for her to actually inherit this, she has to get married. So when she hears that someone has been pretending that they are in a relationship, she decides to take it one step further and announces their engagement. And this is the story about Gemma and Tansy and their marriage of convenience, because Tansy could use the money and Gemma wants the publishing company. So these two get married, but of course it's marriage of convenience. They're going to fall in love. It's a sapphic rom-com. And when I tell you, if you have a arc of this book, I'm fucking jealous of you. I'm so excited to read this. I literally cannot wait. I've loved all of the Alexandria Belfour books that I've read before this, and this is coming out on April 18th. Next on my list is Ascension, which is a speculative horror sci-fi, which I think in this case, the less I know, the better. This is releasing on April 25th, and this story is about a snowy mountain that just literally overnight appears in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And this very shadowy team invites a bunch of scientists to come and figure out what the fuck is this mountain and how did it appear out of nowhere overnight in the middle of the ocean. It has a very isolated setting. As the team is climbing the mountain, things stop making sense because time is moving differently and elevation is a big challenge. I think it's a thriller. It just sounds really good. I haven't heard of this premise before, but again, I love snowy settings. I love mysteries in isolated settings. And what's more isolated than a very small team of scientists on a mountain that's appeared overnight in the middle of the ocean? That just sounds like a fun time to me. This one doesn't officially have a summary, but it's expected to be released on May 9th. And this is Superbia by Colette Rhodes, who wrote Luxuria. I read Luxuria for a Kindle Unlimited reading blog and I had so much fun with it. Luxuria follows this shadow people and hunters. So hunters have always hunted shadow people because shadow people feed off of the fear and anger of people in the world, and hunters kind of take them down. We have our main female character in the first book, Luxuria, who is a monster fucker. Listen, she's like, I don't think we should kill these people. I think that they're actually really attractive. And she writes, or rather she draws a bunch of erotic scenes where she's fucking a monster, and her entire hunter people are like, you're weird, and kick her out, which of course is hard times for her. But when they need an alliance between the two people, they tell her, you're the only one that can do this. You want to fuck monsters? Here's your chance. Come fuck this shadow guy. He can be your husband. He's the king of the shadow people. She agrees to it, not because she cares about them. She's like, actually fuck all of you, but I get a sexy ass monster husband. Sounds good to me. So she goes. It's lots of sexy times. It's as ridiculous as it fucking sounds, but it is so much fun in the way that reading fan fiction at 2 a.m. is a lot of fun, and I mean that in the highest compliment. I believe this book, Superbia, follows her sister, who, unlike our main character, was always a very, very loyal hunter, and because she was on the inside, she gets her own story, and this is her romance within this world, I believe. If it does publish, and once it gets a summary, I will be getting my hands on it. It should be on Kindle Unlimited, so we'll see about that. On June 8th, Gillian Graves is publishing Rook, which is her second book in the Romancing His Stone series. Book 1 was Titan. If you're not new here, you know that I love Titan. Yes, we do have Daddy King. Yes, it is a gargoyle romance with lots of sexy times. This first book was about a sugar baby who wanted a sugar daddy. She ends up with this gargoyle sugar daddy because she has something that he wants, and that is their romance. In book 2, I believe we are following Titan's brother in arms, Rook, and I think it's his romance with his secretary. I could be making that up because there is no official summary, but if I'm remembering that correctly and how the first book was set up, I think we are following the romance between Rook and their secretary. So fun, sexy times ahead. Next on this list is Miss Ali Hazelwood with Love Theoretically. Ali Hazelwood has published The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, both books which I absolutely adored, and she is back with Love Theoretically. In love, theoretically, we are following Elsie, who is a scientist, but she's also really fucking broke because she is a PhD student. So to supplement her income on the side, she is a fake girlfriend for hire. One of her clients has a super sexy older brother who is on the hiring team for a job that she wants at a university. He essentially is like pretending not to like her. It's their romance story. Listen, that's all I needed to know. I actually don't want to know more about that. I just love everything that Adley Hazelwood writes. Almost everything. Her novellas were another conversation. But I'm excited to pick this up. And yes, I will be eating that shit up. Riley Sager is coming out with a new book, as he tends to do every year. I actually read The House Across the Lake and I loved it. I've read a couple of his other books as well. The only one left is publishing on June 20th. Which is his typical timeline. This is a gothic chiller. So this story follows a woman who is going to care for this elderly woman named Lenora. But Lenora has a reputation kind of like Lizzie Borden. People think that she's killed her entire family, but she gets away with it. So allegedly kills her entire family. Kit arrives at this home to take care of her. She is a nurse. All of the previous nurses that Lenora has had have fled in the middle of the night. And one day Lenora is communicating. She can only communicate via typewriter. So she writes this note to Kit and says, I want to tell you everything. I want to tell you what happens. For some reason, Kit agrees. There's some weird shit going on in the house. Kit is helping Lenora write the story of that massacre and what really happened. I am excited to read this, and I will say it sounds exactly like The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, but I trust Riley Sager, so we'll see how I feel about this. Coming to the final book on this list, we have the Invocations. I cannot pronounce that word. Invocations? Invocation. That's not it. Anyway, this book right here, I don't know why I'm struggling with that word so much, but I am. So we are following Zara, and Zara's sister has been murdered by a serial killer, and Zara is really struggling with this, and she decides that she's gonna bring her sister back from the dead. So she partakes in the occult to help make that happen. Then we're following Jude. Jude is the daughter of a billionaire, but her life has been really hard. She's cursed because she made a deal with a demon and it went very wrong. Her soul is turning and she's finding dead flowers and insects everywhere. She's hoping to break the curse, and that's where we enter Emmer, who is a witch, and Emmer sells desperate women power in exchange for little bits of her soul, except that all of Emmer's clients have been dying every single year. So these three women have to come together to solve the mystery before they all fucking die, from what I understand. I'm hoping that this is queer. I know that it is a YA book and it is horror. Again, I love horror. I'm gonna read more horror this year. This is on my radar, and again with the beautiful cover here. Miss Ruth Ware is releasing a book. I freaking love Ruth Ware. I've loved all of the books that I've read for her so far, and she is coming out with a new mystery thriller which is releasing on July 11th. In this book, we are following a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type couple. We have Jack and we have Gabe. Now, Jack and Gabe are hired by people to break into security systems and break into buildings. They're on a routine mission until an assignment goes horribly wrong, and Jack comes home to find her husband dead, and the police think that she's did it. So she has to figure out what exactly happened to her husband and solve this murder as she tries to figure out who to trust while she tries to find the real killer and save herself from prison. It's Ruth Ware. I love Ruth Ware. It sounds like a pretty classic murder mystery to me. I like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith turn on it. So we'll see how I feel about this when it releases in July. I'm gonna keep the summary for this book brief because again, I think this is something that I just wanna go into. We have the Marble Queen. You see this cover here? You see that beautiful lady with the sword at the top? Yeah. Okay, so we're following two women. So Princess Amelia is from this country that is essentially being ravaged. She agrees to a marriage to help her people. She thinks she's marrying the country's prince, but as it turns out, no, she's fucking not. She's marrying the queen on this cover on here, and that's all I fucking need to know. That's it. You said she's marrying the queen? Sounds like a good time. to me. This is going to release on September 12th, which feels so far away, but the cover is gorgeous. The story sounds like so much fun, and I am ready to read it. Now, I'm sure there will be plenty of other books being released later in the year, but for now, I think that was about 21 books. So those are 21 books that I have on my radar that are being released in 2023. I know, I was waiting for the year to end so I could know that these books are just getting closer and closer. I have a lot of reading goals in terms of reading my physical TBR, which at the moment is sitting at like 100 books. But I'm still gonna make space for these books coming out in 2023. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I hope that you were able to find some recommendations or books that you are excited about. If you are excited about any of these books or you plan to read them, let me know in the comments below because I would love to know. And with that said, I will see you in my next video. Bye!